In 1971, the song by David Gates of the group Bread wrote and produced the song If. Also in 1971, the average mortgage rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage was 7.5%. Stick with me this week. We're going to try to tie these two together. Hey there, welcome to the show. My name is Les Sulgrove. This is Simply Des Moines Market Values, weekly market update for week 38, 2023. You know what that means? That means next week is the first week of the fourth quarter for the year. So at the end of next week, we will be putting together not only the end of month show, also the end of week show, and also end of quarter show. So I've got three different shows basically to try to pack into 1 week there. We might split it up into 2 weeks, but we're going to try to get it all in next week. So with that said, here we are with the daily market hot sheet. Again, you see, as we always do, we look at homes for sale and the balance of the market. We're currently at 3.2 months of inventory. In other words, if no new homes come on the market, we would run out of all of our home inventory in the real estate market for central Iowa within just over 3 months, which of course is never going to happen because we always have new homes coming onto the market here. But we are seeing existing home sales, which is basically the resale properties, at 2.2 months and existing condo townhomes at 1.6 months. So those are up over the previous week. And new construction is still around 6 to 7 months of inventory. So it's pretty typical for this time of year for the new construction, a little bit up in pace for the existing homes here. And of course, as always, I include both of these graphics. This is the graphic of the same information, just in more of bar chart and pie chart views each week here at Simply Des Moines Market Values. So if you like what you're seeing each week, please do me a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel and give the channel also a thumbs up. That helps the analytics know that I'm doing what I should be doing out here, and we're getting a lot of conversations going here. So week 38, what's changing here? I think this week is a good week to remind you to always expect the unexpected, and that's what's really happening this week in week 38. The Federal Reserve met this past week. They talked and did not raise the prime lending rate this past week. They, however, did state that it would be very likely that they will have one more rise in the Fed rate before the end of the year. Also, what happened after that, many of the economists out there for the real estate industry started changing their tune. And for the first time in a long time, actually first time ever this year, we've begun to hear that instead of the expectation of mortgage interest rates dropping as we get close to the end of the year, they're now expecting mortgage interest rates to rise. And just how much are they expecting it to rise? Well, from Market Watch, there was a great article. It had many of the economists on there, and they're saying we could see up to 8% before the end of the year. Just basically because the Fed isn't done raising interest rates, and you know the economy is not doing what the Fed wants it to do. So there's probably a little bit more cooling to happen, and that's going to probably end up with 8% interest rates here. So this week, what we're going to do here is I'm going to play this little game of what if. So there's the if that I was talking about earlier. We're going to tie in the if song. And no, I'm not going to sing. This is the Federal Reserve rate increases from 2022 to present. And this is a graphic I've shown you before. The one change in this one that I've made from previous graphics are that on this left-hand side here, I've actually expanded the rate up to 8.5%, so that if rates do get up there, you know, we didn't expect rates to hit 8%, so we were going to leave that that markings on the left-hand side to about 7% or 7.5%. But I did raise it to 8.5% so that there is room in case these rates do rise, and we're going to see that throughout the rest of this week's show here. So again, the theme this week is really what if? What if rates were to end up at that 8%? So just to give you an idea here, this is the interest rates by week that you can see, and the purple ones are the low and the high so far this year. And we've been kind of on a steady climb from January through September. We had a little bit of a drop the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, and then this past week went up a little bit, and then this past week again, 2 weeks ago went up, and then this past week went up just slightly. But what I did was, instead of going up to 7.19%, is where it's currently at for the national average, I went ahead and put in 8% just to show you where this would appear on here. This really kind of puts it in perspective that that's a pretty healthy rise if you look at what's happened year to date so far. And if they're predicting this to rise to 8%, that's going to mean it's going to be a pretty significant rise over the next coming months here, a couple of months left in the year. And I think we're going to see some interesting times if we do hit that 8% interest rate. So not only does this 8%, this is just a pretend here. This is not where we're at today, but I am showing you where it would be. But let's say that it is 8%, and we look at the other side, of course, which I always show you as well, is the purchase power. And the purchase power, you can see, again, when interest rates were as low as they've been all year this year back in February, the purchase power on a $1,200 monthly principal and interest payment for that 30-year fixed rate mortgage was about $198,000. That's the mortgage balance. I'm sorry, not the payment. The mortgage balance that someone could carry for that $1,200 monthly payment, $198,233. Our highest rate here back in, well, actually, I didn't update this one, but we were back here in August when rates were even higher. It's below that 181. I think it was like 179 or 78, something like that. But if we apply that same scenario here, if that 8% were to hit, this is what the purchase power would be if we actually hit 8% at that same $1,200 a month principal and interest payment. That's a drop of $34,700 from the high point in February. So buyers that have waited for rates to come down, if that happens, they're still going to be waiting sometime, and that's just going to make the real estate market even that much more interesting, as we find a lot of buyers out there kind of waiting for rates to change. But anyway, that's just the what if game here. So what I did also is I decided I was going to look at how this applies across 4 of our other metrics in the real estate market here. And so this graphic we'll see moving forward for the rest of the show. This purple line here represents year-to-date mortgage interest rates. And on the left-hand side here, we've got the percent of interest in 1% increments. So 6 to 7%. We've been between that 6 and 7% interest rate for the majority of this year until we got here into the third quarter, and it started to jump up above the 7% rate. Now, the graphics I'm going to show you next are going to have an overlay of, for example, homes for sale, and whether or not homes for sale are going up or down when we compare it to this graphic. And each of the graphics that we see forward on these different metrics, this left-hand side is going to stay the same, and this purple line is going to stay the same. But what's going to change is on the right-hand side here, we're going to see another set of numbers over here, and that's going to represent the number of homes coming up. In fact, let's just jump to that. You can see over here the green is the number of homes on the market here. And I've talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago how as mortgage interest rates rise, so does homes for sale inventory. So the saying was 3 weeks ago was that inventory chases mortgage interest rates. So as interest rates rise, homes for sale do increase as well. And you can see that's been pretty much true as we've gone through the year. We had a little spike there in the first of the year, and it started to raise right there, but then rates came right back down. So this little peak right here back in the first quarter was temporary, but then from about quarter 2 on to date here, and you can see we're almost into quarter 4, that as interest rates rose, so did home inventory. Let's look at another category, another subcategory here. Let's look at the 30-day sale pace. So this is the analysis of the number of homes that have gone under contract in the previous 30 days. It's a rolling 30-day period, and you can see that as interest rates went down in the spring, the number of buyers that were buying went up, and this kind of makes sense. So when rates go down, buyers pull the trigger, they go out and they start to buy. Rates go down here between second and third quarter and kind of start to jump back up. Of course, this is our spring heavy market anyway, so we saw a nice jump here of 30-day sale pace transactions in quarter two. Quarter three was somewhat flat, and until we got into the second half of quarter three, and that's when we started to see the mortgage rates hit above that 7%, and then naturally it's the natural progression of things. We start to see the number of buyers out there starting to pull back. So as rates go up, sales buyers are buying less homes at that point in time. And the scale over here on the right hand side now shows that number here. This past week we were right around that 1,000, just under 1,000 homes that went under contract this past month here. The next metric we're going to look at is months of inventory, and naturally again, as mortgage interest rates start to rise, months of inventory starts to drop just a little bit because homes are selling. We're selling homes at a faster pace, and that makes the months of inventory go down. And again, we start to see that rise as the interest rates rise. Just like number of homes for sale, months of inventory chases the mortgage interest rates here. And the scale on the right-hand side is number of months in this example. The last one we're going to show you here is days on market. Actually, I think I have one more after this. Days on market here. And again, here we are. The purple line is the mortgage interest rates. And it's very natural coming out of the holidays that our days on market are longer just because of the slowdown, and we get into the spring market. And so this one isn't quite as affected by that, but we are starting to see a pretty good pull of days on market is going up. We are above days on market for year to date, or year over year from last year as we progress towards fourth quarter. And a lot of that I think has to do with this last 5 or 6 or 7 weeks of mortgage rates on the rise there. And that was the last one. I thought I had one more on there, but I don't have. So anyway, that's the show this week. We'll have more of this next week when we start to talk about the end of month and quarterly updates, as well as the end of the week report here. So if you have any questions, as always, be sure and reach out to me, Les Solgrove, at viarealtors.com is the email address you can use there for that. I still maintain that for question and answers. You can text me. You can leave your questions in the show comments below here. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you all again next week. Talk to you soon.